Before we dive into this extraordinary tale of fate, fatherhood, and a love that defies expectations, tell us in the comments below, what city are you watching this video from? Let's connect across the globe and share in this heartfelt journey. The weary single mom, the billionaire CEO, and a tiny hand that changed everything. Under the dim light of the flickering street lamp, Clara stirred her coffee, her gaze lost. The drink was already cold, but she didn't even notice. She had slept barely a few hours after an exhausting day at Milton & Associates, a financial firm in downtown Sydney. But she was used to it. When you're a single mother, there's no room for fatigue. She looked over at the small mattress by the window where her son, Leo, slept. The child was curled up under a thin blanket, his long eyelashes barely fluttering with each breath. But what truly broke her heart were Leo's deep blue eyes, the same ones she had once seen on another face, one she had tried to erase from her life for the past 5 years. She sighed. She couldn't stay trapped in the past. That morning, as always, she followed her routine, prepared Leo's breakfast, helped him with his backpack, and dressed in a hurry. They were about to leave when her phone rang. "I'm so sorry, Clara. I can't watch Leo today," the nanny said from the other end, her voice guilty. "Something came up. You'll have to find someone else." Clara gripped the phone tightly. "But I have to be at the office in half an hour. I can't leave him alone." "I'm truly sorry, Clara. Don't you have anyone else?" No, she didn't. She looked at the clock. 20 minutes left. If she was late, it could cost her job. She looked at Leo, who watched her, unaware of what was happening. "Mommy, are we going to school?" Clara took a deep breath. She had no alternative. She would take him with her. The Milton & Associates building was one of the tallest in Sydney's financial district. As she passed through the automatic doors, Clara felt anxiety creep up her neck. She held Leo's hand tightly as they walked through the lobby, filled with hurried executives in expensive suits. Children were not allowed there, but if she was lucky, she could keep Leo in her office without anyone noticing. Clara barely glanced down to check some emails, and Leo slipped away from her desk. "He disappeared! Leo!" Clara exclaimed in a low voice, her heart pounding. She jumped up and went into the hallway. If anyone saw him, she could be in very serious trouble. The executive area was quieter than usual. Clara walked as fast as she could, checking every nook, every corner. And then she heard it. "Daddy!" Clara froze. Leo was hugging the leg of a tall man, impeccably suited, and with a serious face. The man looked down and frowned, confused. It was Gabriel Hayes, the CEO of Milton & Associates. His usually impassive expression hardened at the sight of the child. Clara felt the ground open beneath her. "Leo!" she cried, running towards them. "Let go of him, please!" Gabriel looked up. When he saw her, his face tensed even more. "Clara," he said, not disguising the tone of surprise and distrust. "What does this mean?" She swallowed hard, trembling. "I'm sorry. It was just a mistake. Leo shouldn't be here. I'm taking him now." "Why did he call me Daddy?" Clara was paralyzed. "I don't know. Children sometimes say things without thinking." Gabriel looked down at the child's blue eyes. His eyes. The same ones. "What's his name?" "Leo," she replied, barely audible. Gabriel frowned. "I need to talk to you. Now." Clara felt her heart clench. She knew it. She knew this moment would come someday, but she still wasn't prepared. Gabriel looked at her intensely. "Is he mine?" She didn't answer. She just hugged Leo tightly and walked away with him. But she knew it wasn't over. It was just beginning. The next day, Clara barely slept. Her nerves were frayed, her mind replaying the previous day's scene over and over. Leo, running towards Gabriel, hugging him so naturally, calling him Daddy. And Gabriel's gaze. It wasn't just surprise. It was as if he had started fitting together pieces of a puzzle he didn't know existed. That morning, she arrived at the office with a knot in her stomach. She dropped Leo off at the emergency daycare, the only option she found in less than 12 hours, and tried to remain calm. But upon entering, her boss, in a dry voice, informed her, "Gabriel wants to see you in his office, now." Clara felt her legs trembling. She rode the elevator in silence, her hands sweating. Upon reaching the executive floor, the air seemed denser, colder. She knocked twice. Gabriel's firm voice told her to enter. He stood with his back to her, looking out the large window overlooking the harbor. He didn't even turn. "Close the door." Clara obeyed. The silence was thick, uncomfortable. Finally, he spoke. "How old is Leo?" Clara swallowed hard. 4. Gabriel turned around. His face was unreadable, but his eyes pierced through her. 4. Exactly the time that has passed since you disappeared. "I didn't disappear," she said in a weak voice. "You left without saying anything, without leaving even a note." "I didn't know that night was going to mean anything," he replied, lowering his voice slightly. "I thought it was just a moment, something fleeting. For you, maybe. For me, it changed my whole life." Gabriel took a step towards her. Clara held his gaze. "Is he mine?" Clara looked down. "No. Are you lying to me?" She didn't answer. "I'm going to get a DNA test," he said decisively. "If he's my son, I'll know." "You can't force me," Clara replied, her tone firmer than she felt. "No, but I can go the legal route." Gabriel was like that. Direct. Determined. He had built an empire from scratch thanks to his ability to go after what he wanted, regardless of the consequences. Clara knew that. That's why she had been so afraid of him all these years. "I don't want my son to grow up in the middle of a battle," she said, more to herself than to him. "And I don't want to continue not knowing if I have a son," he replied, in a lower tone. The silence settled again. Clara realized she was clenching her fists. "I'm going to do whatever it takes," Gabriel said at last. "If Leo is my son, I want to be in his life." "Even though you haven't looked for him in all these years," she snapped, in a tone she couldn't help. "I didn't look for him because I didn't know he existed. But now that I know, I'm not disappearing again." Clara left the office without saying anything more. She went down the stairs because she needed to move, to breathe, to think. She didn't know how she was going to face all this. Gabriel Hayes was not just any man, and now he was determined to be a father. That night, Leo asked about him. "Mommy, why did that man yesterday look like me?" Clara froze. "What do you mean?" "He had the same eyes as me." Clara swallowed hard. "Sometimes that happens, honey. There are many people with blue eyes." Leo looked at her with that disarming innocence children have. "Is he my daddy?" "No, honey. He's just someone I work with." Leo didn't say anything more. He got into his bed and hugged his favorite stuffed animal. But Clara knew the question would return. Maybe not the next day, but soon. Meanwhile, Gabriel had already put his lawyers to work. One of them met with him in his office 2 days later. "If the child is yours, you can claim legal paternity, but you'll need the test. And after that, a legal process." "I don't want to take the child away from her," Gabriel said. "I just want to be present. Then it's best if the mother cooperates. Otherwise, the process will be long and complicated." Gabriel knew that, but he also knew he couldn't let this pass. Something inside him stirred every time he remembered Leo calling him Daddy. That word, spoken so naturally, had left a mark on him. He had never thought about having children. He didn't see it in his life. But now he couldn't get the child out of his head. His gaze, his laughter, the way he hugged him, all of it haunted him. And Clara, too. Every day that passed, the situation became more difficult. Leo talked about Gabriel, drew him, asked about him. One afternoon, Gabriel went to the park where Clara used to take Leo after work. He appeared without warning. Clara saw him approach with a firm step, dressed in his usual suit, but without a tie, his shirt slightly unbuttoned. He seemed less cold, less distant. Leo saw him and ran towards him. "Daddy!" Clara closed her eyes tightly. Gabriel knelt and hugged him. "Hello, champ," he said, with a sincere smile. They spent the afternoon together. Clara watched them from the bench, her heart breaking. She knew she couldn't keep them apart for much longer. But she was also afraid that Gabriel, with all his power and resources, would eventually take her away from her own son. When night fell, Gabriel approached her. "We need to talk." "I know. I don't want to fight, Clara." "Then don't force me to hand him over. I don't want to take him from you. I just want to be a part of his life. What if you disappear later?" "I won't. How can I trust you? Give me a chance." She looked at him, unsure, and for the first time in a long time, she saw something different in him. It wasn't just determination. It was vulnerability. "Think about it," he told her before saying goodbye. "But don't take too long. I don't want to lose another day with my son." Clara stood watching him walk away, with Leo waving from his arms. She knew the past had returned, and this time, she couldn't just close the door on it. The following days were a roller coaster of emotions for Clara. She couldn't concentrate. She couldn't sleep well. Leo kept asking about Gabriel, as if he had already settled into his world without permission. Sometimes he would call out to him from his room, not knowing he wasn't nearby. Other times he would draw things for when Daddy comes to see them. And Gabriel delivered. He would go to the park, pick him up from daycare some days, and although Clara initially objected, Leo would jump with joy every time he saw him. Little by little, Gabriel began to occupy a place in their routines. One Friday afternoon, Clara returned from work and found a note taped to the door. It was from Gabriel. "I went to pick up Leo from daycare. He asked to go with me. We'll be at the park, as usual. If you can, come." She read it over and over. She didn't know whether to be angry or grateful. She took a deep breath, changed her shoes, and went. When she arrived, she saw them sitting on a bench. Leo was telling Gabriel something, his hands gesturing wildly, a huge smile on his face. Gabriel listened attentively, even laughing. Leo was showing him a drawing. "Look, this is you, this is me, and this is Mom. We're a family." Clara felt a lump in her throat. Gabriel looked up and saw her. He stood up immediately. "Hello. I didn't mean to take him without letting you know, but Leo insisted." "I know," she said, without emotion. "He always insists." There was an awkward silence for a moment. Then Leo ran towards her. "Mommy, Daddy bought me ice cream and helped me with my drawing. Did you see it?" Clara stroked his hair. "Yes, I saw it. It's very beautiful. Can we have dinner together? All three of us?" Gabriel leaned in slightly. "We can, if your mom agrees." Clara looked at him, her arms crossed. "Where?" "Not far. A quiet place. I promise it's nothing weird." Reluctantly, she accepted. Not for Gabriel, but for Leo, who wouldn't stop insisting. They went to a small pizzeria on a nearby street. Leo sat between them, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. And for the first time in years, Clara shared a meal with Gabriel without feeling tense. He talked about his childhood, about how his mother had been abandoned by his father, about how that made him reserved, distrustful, about why he fled that night. "I didn't know how to handle what I felt," Gabriel said, looking at his glass of water. "It was easier to leave, to pretend nothing happened. But I never forgot it, Clara. Never. She didn't respond. She just glanced at him. Leo interrupted the conversation, talking about a new toy he wanted. Gabriel promised him they would look for it together. Clara frowned. I don't want you to get him used to everything being solved with gifts. I know, Gabriel replied. I'm not here to be the kind of father who shows up with a bag of toys and then disappears. I want to be a real part of his life. That night, returning home, Clara felt strangely confused. Something in Gabriel had changed. He was no longer just the successful, cold, and arrogant man. Now there was warmth, even vulnerability, and Leo adored him. But Clara was still afraid that all of it was temporary, afraid that when things got complicated, he would disappear again. The next morning, Gabriel called her. I need to talk to you, alone. They met at a small cafe, away from the office. Gabriel arrived earlier and waited for her with a folder on the table. What's that? The papers for the DNA test. I want it to be official, Clara. I need to know. She stared at the folder for a few seconds. Then she shook her head. No. Why? Because I don't want Leo to go through that. I don't want to see him turned into a lab experiment. You don't need it. You already know. I need it for you, Gabriel said. Because you don't trust me. Because I want you to know I'm not leaving. Is that a threat? No, it's a promise. That night, Clara thought about it deeply. She thought about the first few years with Leo, about the days when she didn't know how she was going to pay the rent or buy milk. She thought about how alone she had felt. And now, suddenly, she had Gabriel there, wanting to be a part of it. But she was also afraid of losing control, of a judge deciding who should raise her son. A week later, something happened that changed everything. Leo woke up with a fever. Clara gave him medicine, but it wouldn't go down. By midday, his lips were dry, his skin hot, and he was breathing with difficulty. She panicked. She called an ambulance. They told her there was a delay. Clara hung up and without a second thought, dialed Gabriel. Where are you? At the office. What's wrong? Leo is very ill. I can't wait for the ambulance. I'm on my way. In less than 10 minutes, Gabriel was at the daycare door. His face was a mask of contained fury. He spoke to each of the caregivers, one by one, but the answers were vague, blurry. No one knew anything concrete. Only that Leo had left holding the hand of a man he himself seemed to recognize. Clara was on the verge of collapse. What if they took him to hurt him? No. Gabriel held her shoulders. Don't think like that. We're going to find him. How? Where do we look for him? I have contacts, he said, his eyes burning. And I also have an idea who might be behind this. Who? Gabriel clenched his jaw. Victor Rivers, an old enemy. Someone I brought down years ago. He always said he'd make me pay. Clara put her hands to her face. It can't be. He can't be using Leo to get revenge. He can, Gabriel said, and if he did, I swear he's going to regret it. That night, Clara didn't sleep. Neither did Gabriel. They pulled every possible string. They called the police, acquaintances, activated media contacts. Everything. The anguish was unbearable. And then, the next morning, Gabriel received a call. Hello, Gabriel? The voice was familiar, mocking. Victor, long time no see. I have something of yours. Gabriel felt his blood run cold. Don't lay a hand on him, he said in a low voice. I swear you won't leave here alive. Don't be dramatic, the other replied. I just want to talk. I want to see you, and I want you to bring something. What? Your resignation. To everything. Your company, your money, your empire, everything. I want to see you crawl, Gabriel. I want to see you defeated. Gabriel clenched his fist. If you harm him, I swear. I won't harm him if you do what I ask. The call ended. Gabriel threw the phone against the wall. Clara looked at him, eyes wide. What did he say? He wants me to give up everything in exchange for Leo. And are you going to do it? Gabriel took a deep breath. I'm going, but I'm not leaving without our son. The meeting was set at an old abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Sydney. Gabriel didn't tell Clara the exact details, just that he was going and that she needed to stay home in case he received any news. But she wasn't willing to wait idly. I'm coming with you, she told him, arms crossed. Her gaze firm. It's too dangerous. He's our son, Gabriel. Don't ask me to sit idly by. They argued. They cried. They yelled. But in the end, he understood it was pointless to refuse. All right, but don't stray from me for a second, he warned. The night was dark, humid, with a dense air that felt sticky on the skin. The warehouse was a shell of rusted iron and crumbling concrete. Clara and Gabriel arrived in an unmarked car, with its lights off as they approached. As they stopped, Gabriel slowly opened the door. His hands were trembling, but his eyes shone with determination. Clara was breathing with difficulty. Every step they took felt like walking on glass. Are you sure about this? She whispered. The only thing I'm sure of is that I'm not leaving without Leo. Upon entering, a single light hung from the ceiling, swaying slightly, casting long shadows in all directions. In the middle of the space, a figure waited, Victor Rivers, dressed in black, his face etched with hatred. Well, 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 he said sarcastically. The great Gabriel Hayes, in person. Where's my son? Patience. First, what I asked for. Gabriel pulled an envelope from inside his jacket. Here's my resignation. Signed, everything you asked for. Now hand him over. Victor took it and reviewed it with a twisted smile. I never thought I'd see you like this, so human. Give me Leo. Victor snapped his fingers. A younger man appeared from the back, leading Leo by the hand. The child's face was stained with tears, but seeing his parents, he ran immediately. Mommy! Daddy! Clara caught him in the air, hugging him with all her might. Gabriel also enveloped him, feeling his small body tremble in their arms. It's okay. It's over now, Clara murmured over and over. It's over, my love. But Victor didn't move. And now what? Gabriel asked, gritting his teeth. Now I want to see you grovel. What? I want to see you on your knees, begging for forgiveness. Gabriel took a step forward, Leo still in his arms. Ask me when I don't have my son in my arms. Victor laughed. You don't know how to lose, and you don't know when to stop. Then, from outside, a loud bang was heard. Then another. Voices. Rushing footsteps. Blue lights began to filter through the warehouse's rusted cracks. Police. Get down! Everything happened in seconds. Victor tried to run, but an officer already had him in his sights. The other man released his hands and raised his arms. Clara crouched, covering Leo. Gabriel positioned himself between them and any danger. Calm down. We're the parents. An officer approached. We have everything recorded. We heard everything. Don't worry. It's over. Clara burst into tears. Gabriel fell to his knees, not letting go of his son. The tension of hours, of days, exploded like a knot, suddenly released. Leo was sobbing, but no longer from fear, but from relief. He was safe. A few minutes later, Victor was handcuffed and led to the patrol car, still cursing under his breath. You haven't won, Hayes. This isn't over here. But no one was listening to him anymore. At the hospital, they checked Leo. He was fine. Dehydrated, a little pale, but no injuries. He just wanted to sleep, and for his mom to sing to him softly. Clara didn't leave his side for a second. Neither did Gabriel. That night, while the child slept, Clara and Gabriel stayed in silence by the bed. There was nothing more to say. There was pain, anger, exhaustion, but also a sense of having survived together. I swear it will never happen again, he murmured. Clara took his hand. I know. After he was discharged, they spent several days at home. Gabriel didn't go back to the office. He canceled meetings, delegated responsibilities. He just wanted to be with his son, and with Clara. One Friday afternoon, the three of them went for a walk by the harbor. Leo skipped between them, with renewed energy. Clara and Gabriel followed closely, chatting without tension. I thought I would never be able to breathe peacefully again, she said, and I thought I would never stop being afraid of failing as a father, he admitted. You're not failing. Really? Yes. You have no idea how much Leo has changed since you've been here. Gabriel smiled. And you? Clara looked at him. Me too. That night, when Leo was asleep, Clara and Gabriel sat on the balcony, with a blanket over their legs and 2 cups of hot tea. I want us to live together, he said suddenly. All 3 of us. As a family. Clara was silent, not from surprise, but because the idea had crossed her mind more than once. Are you sure? More than ever. What if it doesn't work? Then we'll talk about it. But I want to try, Clara. I want to wake up every morning and see both of you. She looked down with a faint smile. Give me time, all the time you need. And they stayed like that, without speaking, watching the city lights reflect on the water. The following weeks were different. Gabriel kept coming every day, but now there was a lightness in his gestures. He helped with breakfast, took Leo to school, even went to the market with Clara. He was no longer a visitor. He was part of the routine. One Saturday afternoon, Clara came out of the bathroom and found a small box on the table. Opening it, a gleaming ring took her breath away. Gabriel approached from the kitchen. I wasn't going to do it like this, but Leo said he couldn't wait any longer. What? Yes, I showed him the ring. He insisted I give it to you today. She let out a nervous laugh. And you do everything he tells you? In this case, yes. Clara looked at him, her eyes glistening. Are you proposing to me? Yes. Not because I think that will fix everything, but because I don't want you to spend another day alone. Another day thinking you're alone in this. Because I want to do everything with you. From now on, forever. Leo poked his head out from the hallway. Say yes, Mommy. Clara laughed through her tears. Yes, yes, I do. Gabriel approached and hugged her tightly. Leo ran into their arms too, forming a warm, tight, perfect embrace among the 3 of them. That night, there were no elegant dinners or fireworks. Just pizza, an animated movie, and the 3 of them on the sofa, sharing a blanket. And Clara knew that, after all, she finally had a home. Let's play another game for those who only check the comments section. Type the word carrot in the comments. Those who made it this far will get the joke. Now, let's continue with the story. Months passed, and Clara's life changed more than she ever imagined. Suddenly, she no longer woke up every morning with anxiety about paying bills or wondering who would watch Leo. Gabriel was there, not just as a father, but as a partner. The move was simple. Gabriel found a cozy house in a quiet neighborhood near the sea, with a large yard for Leo to run in. It wasn't a mansion, though he could afford one. It was a home designed for the 3 of them. Clara took her time unpacking everything, not because she had many things, but because she was still processing the idea of living with Gabriel. For years, she had only had him as a memory. Now he was her daily reality. Gabriel, for his part, seemed like a different man. He woke up early, prepared breakfast with Leo, took him to school, and even learned to make pancakes, although more than once they ended up burned. Clara watched them from the kitchen doorway, wondering how he had changed so much in such a short time. "What are you looking at?" he would ask her with a smile. "I'm just checking if this isn't a dream," she would say, half joking. "If it is, then stay asleep with me," he would reply, hugging her from behind. One afternoon, while Clara was washing dishes, Leo approached her with a piece of paper in his hand. "Mommy, I drew a picture." She dried her hands with a towel and took it. In the drawing there was a house, a big smiling sun, and 3 people holding hands, a man, a woman, and a child. Above them, a huge heart. "Who are they?" Clara asked, though she already knew. "Us," he said proudly. "Our family." Clara hugged him so tightly that Leo complained. "Mommy, you're squishing me." "Sorry, champ, it's just that you made me very happy. Can I take the drawing to school?" "Of course you can." Days later, at a school meeting, the teacher approached Clara at the end of the event. "Your son talks a lot about his daddy. He says he found him late, but now he doesn't let him out of his sight." Clara laughed, with a lump in her throat. "Yes, it's something recent. And for you too, right?" Clara was silent for a second. Then she nodded. "Yes, for me too." Meanwhile, Gabriel had begun to transform his way of working. He was no longer the businessman obsessed with staying at the office until late at night. Now he finished his meetings early to pick up Leo from school or to have dinner with Clara. But not everything was perfect. One afternoon, Clara received a letter from the court. It was a notification of legal proceedings for the official confirmation of paternity. Although Gabriel was already an active part of Leo's life, the authorities wanted to regularize the situation. Clara felt uncomfortable, as if someone was trying to interfere with something that was already healed. "Did you know about this?" she asked that night, annoyed. "Yes," Gabriel said calmly, "but I didn't do it to pressure you." "Then why?" "Because if something ever happens to me, I want Leo to be protected. I want him to be legally my son, so that no one can come and take him away from me, so that he has the right to what belongs to him." Clara sighed. She couldn't argue with that. It wasn't necessary to do it this way. "Maybe not," he admitted, "but I want to do things properly." She looked at him, unsure whether to hug him or push him away. "Just promise me this won't separate us." "No, it will unite us more." The process was simpler than Clara expected. Gabriel signed the papers. The tests were done. And as everyone knew, the results confirmed paternity. Leo never knew about the paperwork. For him, his daddy was his daddy, period. A month later, they received an official letter with Leo's updated full name. Now he bore both their last names. Clara read it over and over, tears in her eyes. "Are you okay?" Gabriel asked her. She nodded. "Yes, I was surprised by how happy it makes me to see this." He approached and kissed her forehead. "Thank you for letting me be part of your life. Thank you for staying." One morning, Gabriel woke up earlier than usual. He had a serious look, as if he were planning something. Clara noticed it at breakfast, as he stirred his coffee without tasting it. "Is something wrong? I want to tell you something, but I need you to listen without interrupting me." She put her fork down on the plate. "Okay. Shoot. I've been thinking about what I want to do with my company, and I've decided to sell it." Clara was speechless. "Sell it?" "Yes, I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. All I want now is time. For you, for Leo, for us. And what are you going to do?" "Create a foundation," he said with a smile, "to help single mothers, to support families going through what you went through." Clara looked at him with teary eyes. "Are you serious?" "Yes, you inspired me. I want to do something that truly makes a difference." She couldn't hold back her tears. "Gabriel, I don't know what to say." "Tell me you're proud of me," he replied. Taking her hand, "I'm more than proud. I'm happy to have you." He stood up, wrapped his arms around her, and kissed her. Leo interrupted them, entering in his dinosaur pajamas. "You're kissing again?" "They're always doing it." "And we'll keep doing it!" Gabriel shouted, hugging Leo and lifting him into the air. "Daddy, no! You're tickling me!" "That's the plan." Clara watched them, laughing, her heart full. The foundation's inauguration was a simple but emotional event. Clara was at the front, alongside Gabriel and Leo, who cut the ribbon together. Several local media outlets covered the event. Gabriel spoke of his transformation, of how love changed his vision of life. He mentioned Clara without going into detail, but everyone understood that she was the driving force behind this new direction. After the event, back home, Clara poured him a glass of wine, and they sat on the patio while Leo slept. "Do you think this will last forever?" she asked. "I have no doubt. What if we argue one day? We'll argue, but we'll also reconcile. What if I get tired? Then we'll rest together." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm happy." "Me too." And in that warm silence, under the starry Sydney sky, they knew the path hadn't been easy, but it had led them exactly where they were meant to be. Time passed without Clara realizing it. Between Leo's school, the foundation's commitments, and the small daily moments, days began to fill with a normalcy she had never imagined possible. Leo was no longer the quiet child who sometimes clung to his backpack as if it were a shield. Now he spoke freely, asked questions all the time, and every time Gabriel crossed the threshold, he would run towards him as if he were a superhero, because in reality, that's what he was to him, his hero. One afternoon, as Clara was folding laundry, Leo appeared in the doorway with a crumpled piece of paper in his hand. "Mommy?" "Yes, my love. Can I ask you something?" "Of course." The child climbed onto the bed and sat cross-legged. "Why wasn't Daddy with me from the beginning?" The question caught her by surprise. She froze with a folded t-shirt in her hands. Leo looked at her with curiosity, not anger, just wanting to understand. "Well," Clara began, sitting beside him, "sometimes adults make mistakes, things we don't know how to handle well. And that's what happened with your daddy and me. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love you with all his heart. He just arrived a little later." Leo nodded slowly. Then he held out the paper. "I wrote something for him. Can I read it to him?" "Of course you can." That night, after dinner, Leo took his paper and stood in front of Gabriel, who watched him with a huge smile, having no idea what was coming. "Daddy, I wrote this at school. It's a project about important people, but I didn't want to talk about an astronaut or a soccer player. I wanted to talk about you." Gabriel blinked. Clara settled into her chair, holding back her emotion. Leo began to read aloud. "My favorite person is my daddy. He wasn't always with me, but when he arrived, he made me the happiest boy in the world. He takes me to the park, he listens to me, and he tells me I'm brave. My daddy has blue eyes and a smile he only uses with me. He doesn't need a cape to be my hero, because he already is. And even though he didn't teach me to walk, he's teaching me not to be afraid. I love him very much." The end. Clara couldn't help but let a few tears escape. Gabriel was speechless. He just knelt down and hugged Leo, pressing him tightly to his chest. "I love you, champ," he murmured. "Thank you for giving me this chance." That night, Clara hugged him as he stared at the ceiling from bed, still moved. "Did you ever imagine he'd write something like that for you?" "Never," he replied. "I didn't even imagine having a life like this. And what do you think of it?" Gabriel turned his face towards her and smiled. "It's the best thing that's ever happened to me." One day, Clara received an unexpected message. It was an invitation to give a talk at a local university about her experience as a single mother and now as part of the Foundation's project. At first, she thought about declining. She didn't like spotlights or public speaking, but Gabriel encouraged her. "You have a story that can help many people. What if I freeze? What if I get nervous?" Then you stop, you breathe, and you continue. "I'll be there with you." "Are you serious?" "I wouldn't miss it for the world." And so it was. On the day of the event, Clara stood in front of the microphone, her hands trembling. In the audience, beside students, Gabriel and Leo sat in the front row, with a handmade banner that read, "Go, Mom." She let out a little laugh at the sight, and something inside her calmed. "Hello," she began. "My name is Clara, and 5 years ago, I thought my life was over. I found myself alone, without finishing university, with a baby in my arms and not knowing where to start. I felt fear, sadness, anger, but I also found strengths I didn't know I had." She told her story without embellishment, without trying to seem perfect. She talked about the dark days, the low-paying jobs, the sleepless nights. She also talked about love, about how she chose her son above everything else, and how life gave her a second chance when she least expected it. At the end, there was applause. A lot of it. And when she stepped off the stage, Gabriel hugged her with shining eyes. "I've never been so proud of you. Thank you for pushing me to do it." "I didn't do it," he said. "You did it all on your own, as always." Leo hung on to their necks. "You did amazing, Mommy." That night, they had hamburgers in the garden, with candles on the wooden table, and Leo talking non-stop about how boring his mom's speech was, even though everyone clapped. Clara just watched him laugh, thinking about everything that had happened to get to that moment. A few weeks later, Gabriel received an unexpected call that left him silent for a few seconds. "Everything all right?" Clara asked. "It's from the company. The new CEO asked me to consider coming back. They're offering me a position as an advisor, part-time, full flexibility." Clara raised her eyebrows. "And what do you think?" "I think I already made a decision a long time ago." "You don't want to go back?" "No, I want to continue with the foundation. I want to be present. The rest is no longer what drives me." "I like the new version of you," Clara said, hugging him by the waist. "Me too." At that instant, Leo ran towards them with a ball in his hand. "Play with me!" "Let's go!" Clara shouted, running after him. Gabriel followed, and the three of them chased each other around the garden until they ended up lying on the grass, laughing uncontrollably. That night, Clara and Gabriel stayed on the sofa while Leo slept. Outside, it was raining. Inside, there was only calm. "Do you think we deserved this?" she asked. "I don't know, but I'm grateful for it. Every day." "Me too, and you know what else?" "What?" "I want us to have another child." Clara looked at him, surprised. "Are you serious?" "Very. But everything has been so recent." "Precisely because of that. Because now I know I don't want to waste any more time. No more silences, no more doubts. I want to keep building with you, and with Leo, and with whoever comes." She was silent for a few seconds. Then she smiled. "Let's take it step by step, but I'm not closing the door." Gabriel kissed her tenderly. "That's the best yes I could receive." And in that instant, between the sound of the rain and the warmth of the home they had built, they knew there was no turning back, that the past no longer hurt, that the present was solid, and that the future, finally, belonged to them. As the months passed, the new routine became a way of life. Clara had gotten used to seeing Gabriel preparing breakfast, to Leo jumping around the house in his school uniform, and to family Sundays at the beach, with laughter, ice cream, and sand castles that always ended up crumbling. But the most impressive thing was that all of it, that life, didn't seem borrowed or temporary. It was real. It was theirs. Clara went back to studying. She resumed her university degree in economics, with online classes and constant support from Gabriel, who took care of Leo whenever she had exams or assignments. Sometimes, when she stayed up late studying, he would make her tea and sit beside her in silence, just so she knew she wasn't alone. "I don't know how to thank you for all this," she told him one night, her eyes red from reading so much. "You don't need to thank me," he replied, caressing her cheek. Just promise me you won't give up." "Never," Clara said, with a tired but convinced smile. "For you, for Leo, and for me." On one of those study days, Clara received a call from Leo's school. He had been chosen to represent his class at a school event, a short speech in front of the parents. Gabriel didn't let anyone else approach the microphone with a camera. He recorded everything from the front row. "Hello, I'm Leo," the child said, nervous but firm. "Today I want to talk about what it means to have a family. I have a mom who takes care of me and loves me very much. And I also have a dad who found me when I needed him most. Sometimes family doesn't start perfect, but it's built. And mine is the best there is." There was huge applause. Gabriel looked at Clara with tears in his eyes. Clara squeezed his hand tightly. They said nothing. There was no need to. One Saturday morning, as they had toast and orange juice for breakfast, Leo dropped a bombshell. "Mommy, when am I going to have a little brother or sister?" Clara choked. "What?" Gabriel burst out laughing. "Where did you get that idea?" "Everyone at school has siblings, and I want one to play with and teach my stuff." Clara looked at him, still surprised. Gabriel, on the other hand, smiled as if he had been waiting for that moment. "Well," he said, lowering his voice, "that depends on your mom." Leo turned to her with a pleading face. "Yes, Mommy?" Clara sighed, amused, and shrugged. "We'll think about it, okay?" "Yes!" Leo shouted, jumping in his chair. "I already have to make room in my room." "Calm down, champ," Gabriel laughed. "No one's on the way yet." But Clara looked at him with a raised eyebrow, and he understood perfectly. There was hope, and also willingness. A month later, Clara presented her thesis. It was an important moment, full of nerves and pride. Gabriel was there, with a bouquet of flowers, and Leo carried a handmade banner that read, "My mom is the best economist in the world." When the committee gave her the final approval, Clara let out a laugh that had been stuck in her throat for years. She had started over, from scratch. She had raised a child alone. She had forgiven, loved, and learned to trust again. And now, she had finished what she started. Gabriel hugged her so tightly he almost took her breath away. "You're incredible," he whispered. "I wouldn't have done it without you," she replied. "Yes, you would have, but I'm glad I was there." Leo squeezed into the middle of the hug. "And now what? Are we going on vacation?" "Good idea," Gabriel said. "How about we celebrate at the beach, and we'll eat pizza?" Clara hugged them both. "As long as we're together, it can be pizza, hamburgers, or whatever. Everything tastes like heaven with you." That summer, they traveled along the Australian coast. From Dharambarambe, they swam in the white sand beaches and ate at small restaurants where the food tasted heavenly. Leo discovered snorkeling, and Gabriel discovered he couldn't say no to anything his son asked for. One night, under a sky full of stars, Clara and Gabriel sat in silence on the terrace of the cabin they had rented. Leo slept inside, exhausted from running around so much. "Do you remember the first time you saw him?" she asked. "Yes. He ran to me and called me Daddy without a second thought, and you turned white. I felt the world stop. My soul almost fell to the ground." They laughed. "And now?" Clara asked. "Now I can only give thanks for that day. If it hadn't happened, perhaps we would still be separated, and I would have missed all this." Clara took his hand. "We won't be separated again. Never." He kissed her slowly, with the calm of someone who no longer flees from what he feels. Upon returning from vacation, Clara began working as a consultant for the same foundation that she and Gabriel had promoted. She helped women in vulnerable situations, shared her experience, and gave talks in communities that needed guidance and support. Her story inspired, not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. Gabriel, for his part, became a different leader. He was no longer the businessman who inspired fear. He was the man who listened, who took the time to be present, and who put his family above everything else. One ordinary afternoon, Leo came running home from school with a piece of cardboard. "They asked me to draw my family!" he shouted, agitated. In the drawing, there was a house, a dog, even though they didn't have one, and 4 people. Clara looked at him, surprised. "Who's the 4th one?" Leo smiled. "It's my future brother or sister. I already put them there, so they know they have space." Clara and Gabriel looked at each other. "Well," he said, "it seems we've been left with no excuse." She let out a laugh. "Yes, I guess so." A year later, Leo was at the hospital, sitting next to Clara, with a huge smile. "Can I hold him?" "Carefully," Gabriel replied, helping him. Leo held the baby wrapped in a sky-blue blanket and looked at him in wonder. "Hello, I'm your brother. I'm going to take care of you. But don't break my toys, okay?" Clara laughed, tired but happy. Gabriel looked at all 3 of them as if the entire universe had gathered in that room. He stroked Leo's head and kissed the newborn's forehead. "Thank you for making me a father, Clara. Thank you for not giving up," she whispered. "I never will." And so, amidst diapers, bottles, and children's laughter, they began a new stage. With more love, more chaos, more stories to write. But with the certainty that this time, there would be no room for abandonment, fear, or loneliness. It had started with an unexpected encounter, with a child hugging a stranger and calling him Daddy. But it ended with a complete family, a home full of life, and a future that promised to be even better. Because when love is chosen, there is no mistake that cannot be forgiven, no distance that cannot be traveled. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave us your comment. Do you also believe in second chances? We'll read you. See you in the next video.